Good morning, everybody. This is Tom Manny, agronomist with Specialty Hybrids here. Wanted to take a moment and just review some of the presentations. We had our green light pit stop call this morning. It is September 17th. We had our call this morning, and with some combines rolling in the field, not everybody can make it, I understand. So I wanted to run through my presentation here, put it on YouTube so everybody can get access to it as needed. But anyway, the call today was really around tar spot, um, and the disease. It's had quite a bit of impact across northern Indiana and southern Michigan, um, and really getting some growers' attention this year. So I wanted to do a little bit of summary, talk about the disease, and let everybody know kind of what we're seeing out in the field. And so we'll get going here. So exactly what is tar spot? So everybody's seen it. It's exactly what like it says. It's a tar spot looking disease that's on the plant. So little black dots speckled all across the plant. It actually originated in Central America and has since migrated north. It's really began here in what I would say is the Eastern Corn Belt, parts of northern Illinois and northern Indiana, and into Michigan. It's been spreading steadily since then. So it infects fields. The issue with it is that it infects fields quite quickly. So what it has is that it has a 2 week latency period. So what that means is there's 2 weeks between when there's spores out there and you have tar spot, but you don't see it yet before you start seeing the black dots. There's 2 week latency period, which is relatively quick. Um, Compared to other diseases like gray leaf spot, which has I think a 4 week, 3 week latency period. So it's a relatively quick infection. The other issue with it is it's going to take about 7 to 8 hours of leaf wetness compared to other diseases, which are more like that 10 to 12. So 7 to 8 hours is a shorter period. So that's the difference between maybe a dew setting in or burning off at 8 a.m. compared to 10 a.m. So if it doesn't burn off by 8, that condition could result in you seeing tar spot, but not seeing something like gray leaf spot. That's an important difference, and that's what can really cause it to take over fields quite quickly. So it does overwinter in the soil, so on that plant trash. It's going to overwinter on that, and unfortunately, rotation doesn't seem to help much. Um, Without the proper control measures, that inoculum, it's going to increase in the soil, and that pressure is going to be higher in future years. So that's one thing that we're seeing this year is fields that in 2019 had tar spot but didn't get a fungicide are seeing higher levels of pressure here in 2021. And the other thing to note is that tar spot, it seems to be growing exponentially. So every one of those little black dots, the stroma, um, it's a fungus and it's going to produce spores, and those spores are going to spread throughout the plant. And so one black dot can produce about, let's say, another 100 black dots within 2 weeks. And then those 100 black dots will each produce another 100. And so over a relatively short period of time, you can see it spread in a field very quickly. So to just kind of show the chain of what we've seen. So in 2015 is when we first noticed it in the counties here. Let me get my pointer going. So in the counties here in 2015 is where we first started to notice it. 2016, you can see a few more. 2017, a few more. And then 2018. 2018 was the big year when we really started to take note of it in Indiana. 2019, we saw it a lot, but it came in late, so it wasn't a huge impact. That paired with the later planting that year is what kind of maybe mitigated some of the pressure. And now where we're at here, and now in 2021, you can see the current spread of tar spot and the impact that it's having. So you can see all across northern Indiana, parts of northern Ohio, a lot of Michigan and Canada, southern Ontario. And you can see the gray counties is where they have been previously reported, all the way into Iowa, a lot of northern Illinois, and some southern Wisconsin. I'm not exactly sure why, but northern Illinois, they must not be reporting the issues because there's a lot of gray counties there. But I know it's over there, and I know it's impacting farms over there. So You can see it's spreading a lot. It's really starting to take hold, and it's taking hold earlier than it has in prior years, at least since 2019. So now, so just wanted to show a couple pictures of our products and the impact that fungicide is providing. So here on the left is 39D389. Good product, good stalks, roots, and plant health in general. You can see what it's looked like when it was sprayed. Pretty clean. You can see a little bit of that necrosis in the lower canopy, but it looks pretty good. This picture was taken August 23rd. And then right next to it is an untreated check strip with no fungicide. It was sprayed with a ground rig, so relatively easy to leave that check strip. And you can see the necrosis that you're seeing there, moving further up into the upper canopy, really taking over these plants here. We'll keep moving, same plot or same field. On the left ear, that was treated with fungicide. The right was not treated. You can see the husk is brown and dead for where it wasn't treated. And then when you rip the husks off, you can see the ear, the kernel size is relatively the same, or the kernel count is relatively the same. What you're really losing is grain fill from that necrosis. So you can look the kernels are smaller. They're not filled in quite as well. They're definitely further along. Whereas the 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 product that was sprayed with fungicide is filling in much better, and there's better grain fill going on from it. Looking at when you break the cob in half, this is where you can really see the kernel depth getting affected. So look at the size of the kernels for where it was sprayed with fungicide. Bigger. You're still at about 50% milk line. Whereas when you look at where it wasn't sprayed with fungicide, um, the kernels are about a third shorter. Milk line is further along. So you can see that fungicide is definitely working. From the air, you can clearly tell that check strip from the air. So I mean, look at that. That is one line. And this is August 23rd. Uh, Typically, there's a lot of growing season left. So we're losing out on a lot of grain fill here. Um, that fungicide is definitely paying for itself this year. In my opinion, we'll see when it runs, but I'm thinking we're looking at a 50 bushel yield loss here. So now a couple other things. So 42A843, probably our best product for tar spot, maybe the best in Indiana. It's a fantastic product versus another product of ours, 38A388. I don't really want to show any concerns here because 388, I was just in a plot yesterday, infected with tar spot heavily. Um, and it definitely had a bit of necrosis there, but its stalks and standability was great. So even though it gets that infection, it's still managing to hold up quite well. But then you compare it to 843 here, and just look at how dark green and healthy and how much better it's fighting that infection. Another product of ours, 40D148. These left two ears did not have, and this isn't a fungicide example. This is more or less just a tar spot example. The left two ears here, these two, they came out of a field that had no tar spot and was filling nicely and looked great, was not sprayed with a fungicide. This ear here came out of a field that was less than a mile down the road, same operation, but this field was infected with tar spot. And look at the size, look at the impact that it had on kernel weight. So that's really bringing the impact here, and that's what the damage that you're going to see out of tar spot. Along with losing kernel weight is the decreased stalk integrity. So this was taken from Fulton County. Unfortunately, a big storm ripped through there. I do want to be very clear that this is not specialty corn, um, but it had some drought stress and it was infected with tar spot, and a lot of the corn just blew right over. So with this tar spot, is what's happening is that plant is shutting down. It's losing its leaves, and so it's pulling nutrients out of the stalk or cannibalizing. It's cannibalizing itself in order to fill the grain. So when you pull those nutrients out of the stalk, you're decreasing your stalk integrity, and so you're very prone to bad windstorms like this. So in my opinion, if you're watching this right now, and it's still 2021, my my advice is go out and harvest your corn as soon as possible. Unfortunately, we're one bad storm away from having a disaster like this, and I really don't want this to see this to happen to any operations. So my advice is definitely go out and get your corn. It might be a little wet yet, but honestly, it's probably going to be drier than you think. So, and then lastly, I want to hit on is really how you control tar spot. So the first one being is hybrid tolerance. So I want to be clear is that in the marketplace in the US, there are no resistant hybrids to tar spot. Say it again, there are no resistant traits to tar spot in the US. What it is it's a tolerance. So there's hybrids that can better tolerate getting that tar spot and how well it's going to fight it off. But in my opinion, the tolerance really comes down to three different components. The first one is its ability to resist those black dots that you see. So we have some hybrids that can do that. The next is being able to fight off the infection. So there's some hybrids that are going to get those black dots, but they're going to do a better job of fighting it off. I would refer to that as stay green. So we have some hybrids that do a very good job of that. And then the last thing that's important is harvest and standability. So one thing I mentioned earlier was that 38A388. It gets the infections and it can fight it off okay, but it's gonna give up to it. But the stalk integrity is really good. So even though it gets that heavy infection, it does still stand up well. So these three components is what's going to be important for making a product that's what I would say is tolerant to tar spot. So as I said earlier, 42A and 42D 843 are probably the best hybrid you can buy in Indiana to resist tar spot. It's a fantastic product. Next one is 37A and 37D 369. It has a good tar spot tolerance, has a good stay green, it can fight it well. So I'm very pleased with that product. And a few other products that seem to be quite strong. I'm going to list off here is 38D871, a new 108 day here at Specialty. 42DT370, 112 day. 43G549, that's a 113 day drop guard product. And then finally 45A and 45D228, those are 115 days. They come in a smart stacks or a double file. All have what I would expect is a good tolerance to tar spot. So here's some information that I wanted to share more or less around fungicide applications. So this year fungicides, in my opinion, are going to pay large dividends. And in this northern Indiana, southern Michigan market, as we plan for 2022, I think we need to start building in a fungicide into your program. So luckily, being a part of Bayer, we have a lot of great resources, and we have access to Delaro and Delaro Complete, some fantastic products to control tar spot. So this study was with Delaro. Different application timing. So you can see the untreated. This data came out of Southwest Michigan, handled by our technology development team. You can see the untreated check got hammered by tar spot pretty bad. So the susceptible and less susceptible hybrids. Susceptible made 205 bushels with a lodging of 6. The less susceptible made 220 with a lodging of 4, but both of them got hit with tar spot pretty bad. As we move into the fungicide applications, you can see the different timings and what impact they made on yield and how they impacted standability. The R1 and R3, so if you're in a very high pressure area, this may be the best way to go is looking at a 2-pass fungicide, an R1 and an R3 application. Yield-wise, yields were very strong, and more importantly, standability was drastically impacted, both having a rating of 0 for lodging. If you're looking at a 1-pass system, 1-pass being at R1, coming with some solid yield results, but that standability definitely improved it. But there is still a little bit of lodging out there. With high tar spot pressure, it's still going to overcome that fungicide. Fungicides really only give you about 2 to 3 weeks of control. But at the end of the day, a fungicide is better than none. So even at a V7 application, you can see a big yield gains brought from it and improvements to stalk lodging. So if getting a fungicide on is an issue, if maybe the planes are short, or like we saw this year, or potentially you're not really sure on it, even a V7 application, which can be made when the corn is short, it's easier to access, can pay dividends. So finally, a couple of other things environmentally related to tar spots. So some things that you may want to consider. One being planting at higher populations. So Dr. Chivers at MSU's has suggested that higher populations can suppress tar spot growth to a degree. So the reason being is a denser canopy traps more heat in the summer, and that more heat is going to reduce that tar spot from spreading as much. Another thing is reducing that soil inoculum, so keeping those black dots off your corn best you can. So the best way to control it is to never really let it take off. So if you're aggressive with a fungicide program and aggressive with some products that have some good built-in tolerance, you can reduce that soil inoculum in in hopes that, or with the plan that it's going to reduce the pressure that you see in future years. And then finally, deep tillage. I'm not going to say ripping the ground is the best option. It can help if you bury that residue deep, but I don't think that that is going to be the most sustainable option, for the reason that you're burying that residue, and just because of that, I wouldn't say that's going to replace a fungicide. I still think good scouting measures, and then also paired with using fungicides timely, are going to be your best ways. And then also partnering that with the germplasm with good plant health like we have here at Specialty. So any other questions, please feel free to give me a call. Contact your local specialty dealer or FSR if you have any more questions. And then definitely feel free to follow me on Instagram, add me on Facebook. It's Tom Manny. And then Instagram, it's T Manny CCA. So thank you very much for listening. Again, if you have any questions, please feel to reach out to a contact at Specialty, and we'll be happy to help you out. Have a great day.